So COVID has caused many challenges for the world and manufacturers have been hit hard. It's impacted the mobility of products and the ability to serve customers seamlessly. So let's hear how Cummins India has dealt with this from supply chain leader Sowmya Chaturvedi. She has over 21 years of experience in various leadership roles, from supply chain and operations, with exposure to P&L responsibilities and driving business growth and change. She's currently the supply chain leader for Cummins in India and a member of the board of directors of Cummins Generator Technologies. She's certified Six Sigma Master Black Belt, and she's a sponsor, and she's certified visionary leader in manufacturing by CII. She's co-authored a book on gender diversity in manufacturing in collaboration with CII under the guidance of Padma Shri Professor Shoji Shiba. And prior to Cummins, she led business excellence at Tata BlueScope Steel and was a senior business excellence assessor for the Tata Group. She has a master's in executive business management from SB Jain in Mumbai and engineering from Cummins College of Engineering for Women in Pune. So Sowmya, over to you.
Good afternoon. It feels great to be a part of this Integr8, really a very large virtual conclave. I thank Indo-American Chamber of Commerce and its organizers to make me a part of this event. I'm going to touch base on a very important topic that's evolved over the last couple of years and very, very drastically changed over the last few years, and more so after this pandemic situation. It's about Industry 4 and how does it pan out in supply chain and in the areas where it's going to evolve and change supply chain in a large way. So I know there's this Industry 4.0 revolution has been being talked about in India probably last 5 to 6 years, very actively in the manufacturing space. But its relations to a large supply chain, when it talks about end-to-end kind of product flows, it has more meaning to it. And I'll just pull up one slide for us to just kind of look at my organization, Cummins' priorities and philosophies, and then we'll take it forward from there. Yeah. As our organization, we've had an internal strategy and called out key areas that we would be influencing or we would take influences from when we look at the deployment of Industry 4.0. So it's, of course, being able to do a lot of remote access. It would be around ensuring our safety at our, places, for our people, for our stakeholders, and of course the quality aspects around it with manufacturing. Also a lot of proactive sensing capabilities for our products and our product lines. A lot of technology usage over using small scale to large scale production, and of course the humongous amount of data that would be generated around for a lot of data analytics to proactively look at things. And with all this, what is going to definitely happen is it's going to enhance and upscale the people, technologies, and the skills that we have internally. So this is the whole philosophy, and I'm going to take two examples to show how these aspects have been ingrained and are changing the landscape in supply chain. So while I go back to those two examples, definitely, as I'm sitting here and I'm looking at April, last year situation was very, very different, where we as OEMs had a lot of challenges in bringing out emissionized products. At the same time, we were grappling with a very, very different situation around the pandemic. So definitely mobility of products and ability to serve customers seamlessly was being challenged from multiple fronts. So with these challenges around, right, and as we looked at India and we had to bring out an emissionized engine product into the market, Cummins had to face all these challenges. Now, One of the aspects of emissionized changes is that it brings in a lot of electronics and electronics related data into it. And that data needs to have a meaningful implication to ensure customers have got the best product, have got the best supplies. There's a lot of monitoring of the products and processes that keep on happening to ensure that customers' interests are always protected. So let's take across this emissionized engine that we have, and a lot of data that comes across from how the engine performs, what does it do, how does it control the fluid, control diesel fuel, its exhaust systems, etc. So there's a whole lot of data. Now, when this data comes across through clouds, harnessing, etc., into our portals, what we have done is we have evaluated a lot of proactive methods to ensure we take this data back into the manufacturing space and ensure product quality and reliabilities are controlled. And and this is not new in the space of manufacturing across the globe, but definitely India has been seeing this in a large, big way happening over the last two emission changes that came over, and the ones that are going to be done in the future. So it's inevitable that a lot of data analytics is coming across to ensure that we protect the customer's interests always and proactively by looking at how do we control manufacturing processes through this data analytics that's coming across from engines as far as probably an engine running in the somewhere in Leh and Ladakh, but data coming back to our manufacturings in Jamshedpur or Fulton, somewhere where we are looking at how do we need to take that information to process and control the manufacturing elements. So while I talked about control, what it is also looking at is proactively telling us how do we monitor the quality performances to ensure there is a lot of warranty aspects which are in the space of a win-win between us and the customers. So definitely, as I showed you that chart earlier, there's a lot of big data and quality system governance, which is probably under the large umbrella of Industry 4.0, but it's serving us very, very meaningfully and purposefully. But definitely, this journey has just started, right? And for large OEMs, who are into the automotive space, from the passenger to the heavy commercial vehicles, etc. This journey has just started, right? World over, there have been more revolutions, but we have started, looking at control centers to harness this data. So that's one aspect in the entire product supply chain from customers to the OEMs of how this is being utilized in terms of Industry 4.0 and changing the perspective of how we look at data and the humble drivers helping us to kind of get that aspect of input to back to our manufacturing facilities. Now shifting gears. Manufacturing setups can never be successful without a strong supplier partnerships, right? And when I talk about supplier partnerships, Cummins has got big partnerships with key automotive manufacturing suppliers in this region. And these key automotive manufacturing suppliers not only help us in India, but also help a lot of our global plants in ensuring product development and product supplies. And this has been in Cummins for the last 15 years. But over the last 5 years, this process has undergone a huge change. World across, where there has been a lot of advancement in product technology, our manufacturing supply base in India has been very, very proactive to pick this up and start, kind of picking it up in and adapting these products for manufacturing. While they have adopted it, and I'm sharing this across all the manufacturing bases from large to medium to small scale, right? And more so between the large to the medium, right? They have picked it up and have started adapting the Industry 4.0 to proactively monitor a lot of product quality parameters through man-machine interfaces, through the automated processes of tracking process capability. So, which 10 years ago was probably a reactive process of capturing data, analyzing through your various run charts and CPK charts, and then supporting the customer reactively with saying, okay, this was the product quality data for the 10 previous batches. But here, the situation has changed in the last 5 years. These suppliers have invested in a lot of man-machine interfaces, again coming from the Industry 4.0 platform, and proactively captures product process quality data, which is readily available with the global plants and customers even before the products reaches through the sea or the other ocean consignment mode, which is a significant change of proactively trying to share data and traceability of data to the nth level of product manufacturing, with all the traceability context of using uh, the latest 2Ds and 3D barcodes, etc., to say, okay, how do I relate it? Now, this is such a significant, positive impact for the global supply chain, who has not only proactive data access to how the product is going, but they can take that and also start, if needed, adjust manufacturing cycles, etc., to kind of be able to adapt those products as they are coming into the inflow. So that's one significant change that I have seen of how Industries 4.0 is impacting the process of monitoring process and product capability across suppliers to the OEMs in the large supply chain. And what is very, very heartening to note about is that these large, small scale suppliers so are not picking up ready-made solutions of automation and Industry 4.0, algorithms and solutions which are available in the market and just kind of copy pasting. They are investing their time, energy, and their resources to customize and bring those capabilities internally to their organization, and also making it scalable to many of their sister plants and others where they may have these similar products happening. So it's talent in India which is being harnessed and upskilled to ensure that they make those technology resources, algorithms, everything customized to their needs, able to adapt to the customer requirements, and making it scalable. So that's a significant aspect of change that I'm seeing in supply basis. And conventionally the products that would be quote unquote casting, machining, where you would have a little different lens to look at the product, those have also evolved as how can I look at all those parameters being tracked through electronic and digital media, which is again very, very heartening and a big game changer to probably position India as a stronger hub for global sourcing, and trying to kind of move India away from being looked at only as a cost arbitrage for ensuring a larger value chain contributor in the supply chain, to saying, okay, technologically advanced but significantly impacting the supply chain. Now, of course, I'm not going to talk about, these are all done deal. It's the same elements related to product traceability and product tracking is probably used in a lot of logistics and other areas across supply chain and its network, which is not only related to Industry 4, but it's been there for quite some time, from the FMCGs to the manufacturing space. So, but significantly quality product performances, plus the product monitoring to ensure seamless customer support are the two significant examples that I'd like to quote. Added to that is also about how do how the lens of looking at small little automation innovations through those inclusions of cobots, etc., in the manufacturing line have changed the way the small and the large scale industries are looking at manufacturing efficiency improvement is also a change that I'm seeing across our supply base, right? Be it casting machining to the highest high degree level of an assembler using electronics products. They are using cobots to kind of bring all those production efficiencies to make a leaner and a value added supply chain. So I think with these examples and my thoughts around how Industry 4.0 is impacting supply chain and also progressively positioning India as a emerging market for larger solutions around manufacturing and contributing to supply chain. I'll take a pause here and open for any Q&A as you may have through the points that I discussed.
Thanks so much, Sowmya. That was brilliant. And it's lovely to have you here with us. Just in summary, so there's been a real significant evolution in terms of the architecture on how SMEs are looking at technology. It's a paradigm shift and we've got to keep it up. So Sowmya, I'm delighted you're with us live to answer a few questions.
Uh, yep.
Great.
Yeah. Thank you, Vandana. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Good to see
Lovely
you.
to be
And
here.
it's
Yes.
really lovely to see another woman in manufacturing at, a senior level. So we'll talk about that shortly. Um, but let me start with asking you this question. With the current geopolitical situation, what do you see that Indian SME suppliers can do to grow their share in global supply chains?
I think the first understanding that all our SMEs must have is definitely they cannot be playing on the cost arbitrage anymore. It's more value based decisions that are being done across the geographies to ensure that there's good competitive suppliers that are available across the supply chains, right? Because global supply chains are becoming complicated, and I think the pandemic taught us more about that. So the value context can come to SMEs only if they stay invested in technology, be it industry 4 or related digitization technologies that can take the entire manufacturing to the next level to be more
Mm,
able to be connected to customers across seas. So I think that's the value add I see that we all must stay invested in as suppliers, partners, to ensure we make a stronger global supply chain.
right. Okay. Thanks for that. And do you foresee changes in the supplier selection criteria with Industry 4.0?
Absolutely. Right? Data, analytics, competencies, all this are connected together right now, right? It's not going to be can you source the product at the right quality and the right cost levels. That's gone. I think that's
Mm,
10 years ago, probably
yeah,
India would have been competitive with these two criterias. But with that, we cannot be. So with these two alone, we can't be. We need to kind of bring on table how do we make these more facilitated across the entire supply chain to ensure that we have built in competencies in our people, in our processes to bring those elements related out of Industry 4.4 or any other digitization to enable product quality, logistics, supplies, right? Inventory management, everything. It's that basket of portfolio that needs to go back to the customers and not only just the product and I box it and ship it. It's gone are those days, right? And I
mm,
think even SMEs have started now to say, how do I balance work from home, work from factory,
yeah,
and bring that context? So that level of technology influences come, right? I know some SMEs who have started monitoring quality with dashboards, probably with, where it's so customized that they can sit at home and kind of still monitor quality parameters based on what's happening in their shop floor or and this and that's kind of the recent last year pandemic has started teaching us all those elements across, right? To say you can monitor those actions. You don't need to have all those reactive processes. So technology, proactive approach, entire value. These are my three takes, which I'd see would be selection criterias apart from the ability to make that product, right? And technology can only show us sustainability, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, because if you keep on kind of looking at manpower arbitrage in the manufacturing sector, it's not. It's about, I just heard the previous speaker talking about safety and parameters,
Yeah.
right? All that comes only with technology. The
Yeah.
enhancement of safety, enhancement of product quality level, the enhancement of sustainability of the production processes, all that. So I hope, Vandana, I was able to make my point.
Yeah, no, no, very much so. But there's one thing you mentioned. You talked about, one of the criterion being proactivity, and that's absolutely something that would be needed. How do you instill proactivity into your staff?
So in my staff, for example, in terms of the supply chain area where I'm looking at it, what we do is we do a lot of risk assessment and also a lot of proactive thinking on what if we go, if there's a process. So there's always this business continuity element that's kind of attached to any process, any new product that we want to launch, or any new process that we want to set up. I think that mindset has kind of ticked in to kind of build in a lot of proactive approaches, right? And then that proactive approach also trickles in to how do you enable people with the right kind of skill sets so that you can
Mm.
kind of then sustain that proactive approaches. And then that's how you kind of take it from a process focused approach to a people focused approach, to kind of bring that mindset to say, okay, I also, if I do 10 things and I have two elements which are going to look into the future, I'm kind of building on my competencies to constantly think of what if and build an alternate, or build scenarios to say how can I mitigate that, right? So that's very important.
Yeah. And so, part of all of that is continuous learning, right?
Yes.
Because that's something that's very much part and parcel of Industry 4.0. How do you instill that into people? Because that's almost a foreign concept, isn't it?
Yes, but I don't think it's it. Sorry, but I'm going to be with my generation. It had to be nudged, right? But with
Right. Okay.
current millennials in India, I think it
Yeah.
comes a little more automatically, right?
Yes.
That learning the
Yes.
intuitiveness to say I must be ahead of the curve to kind of
Yes.
understand new things, right? So that's a little more. You don't. There's no inertia, right? It's there in build. So that kind of builds on to build a little more energy in the work for on the people to say, okay, take it up, learning is
Mm.
important, to
Mm.
kind, and they are very aspirational, right?
Yeah.
That millennial population is very aspirational, so they kind of see the benefits of learning and knowing. But where we just need to kind of converge is what is priority in terms of learning, and moderate the impatience accordingly, right?
Yeah.
That's the second thing that we need to do. But I think right now, um, with my gen, that change of mindset is gone. It's no more that, oh, I've done this, I've done that, so I've secured my position in the organization and it's done. That's not there anymore.
No, no,
Would
you're
you tend
right.
to agree?
And you talked, I mean, you're absolutely right. In the millennial population, it's very different. But our workforces today tend to have, possibly two, three, or four generations working in. So how do you? So I get how it's being done with the millennials, but what about the older ones? How do we convince them to change?
I think that's a that's a good one question, Vandana. And in many of our setups, manufacturing setups here in India, as well as with my organization, Cummins, we have that mixed population, right? There's a
Mm.
generation of at least 20 years, sometimes as a gap to see that, right? So, and if I may say, they almost have the parental context coming across when you see this
Yes.
generation grad, right?
Yeah.
So once you kind of bridge that parental context, and then it is the aspect of saying that you learn or you have to perish, right? So I think
Mm.
that sentiment comes across because the that parental thing is seen back there in their personal spaces at home as well, when they see their own children or their own
Mm.
set of near relatives. That's one way of influencing it. The second way of influencing is getting in more and more of the millennial population into the organization, to not intimidate that, but to kind of make a healthier organization which kinds of um, nudges you to think differently, right? And that is that, as managers or workforce staff, supervisors, whoever at whatever level, have to kind of stay patient and bring that mindset change. And I think there's
Mm.
that mindset change is important, right? You see, just see from where we are in India, right? Paying by the mobile apps, etc., has just kind of, who is not doing it today here, right?
Mm.
Almost every strata of society
Absolutely.
and every
Absolutely.
ages group is going, right? So I think the surroundings and that environment creation in the organization is very important. So one, influence them by bringing in more of those kind who can keep pushing that edge to think, and then internally bring that patience and mindset change through various interventions of training, etc. I think that then opens up, right? Now you have so much of media technology, everything that's available, accessible,
Mm.
even if it's a 50-year-old person or a 25-year-old person,
Yeah,
right? So
sometimes
I
too
think
much though available, and
yes,
it's difficult
yes.
to know where to get started. Um, okay, we have a question from Brigida, and she said, would Cummins help their vendors in this journey on Industry 4.0 in any ways, to understand what are the mandated requirements to comply with, and give them reasonable time to comply?
Yes, of course. I mean, there's nothing a mandated requirement across there, right? From any, it's not a compliance matter that has to be coming from that legal requirement or anything. That's definitely an enabler. So we at Cummins have got very good supplier quality and those kind of setups where we partner with suppliers because that's our philosophy. And today, we have around 80 plus suppliers from India who support us globally, right? And
Mm.
they are a big, huge population. So definitely, and there's so many in the automotive component space and others who have kind of. So definitely, she can reach out to us in comments, and we would be more than happy to partner with their organization.
That's great. Okay, time for one more question. And I know I was recently emceeing a panel for the Maratha Chamber, and they had the American ambassador on. And he, everyone else was talking about Industry 4.0, manufacturing, this, that, and the other. And he talked about gender. He said that's the biggest issue, and we need to do something with regards to gender. And I was really interested to note that you've actually authored a paper with CII on gender equality in manufacturing. Do you want to just tell us briefly about that?
Oh, no, thanks, Vandana. That was a surprise area, but I would love to talk about that. Thanks for bringing that up here. I know it's a very important aspect of where we are, and I think industry is drawing a lot of focus there. So, I mean, when I worked with CII for for that paper with with Professor Shoji Shiba, with whom CII had partnered with, it was more about how do we kind of bring in that through and sustain that. The whole paper and the case studies was what about to bring, how do you develop, how do you kind of bring in those systems and those enablers in the organization to bring them in, and then how do you, what kind of mechanisms you have to kind of put in place to sustain it. That's how the case study and the paper was kind of devised with examples from our organization. Now, to come back to what you said and what the ambassador quoted, it's so important. And as a philosophy, where I think what I've grown up within my organization and the leadership culture is any any part of an organization should represent the population that it kind of comes across in the country, right? So you need to have gender, you need to have religion, you need to have regional, all kinds of
Yes.
diversity. So let's now
Yeah.
just focus on the gender. So at India, we kind of all census say we are 50-50, right? So I'm sure our organization has also got that as a mandate to say, okay, we need to drive and bring that across a 50-50 kind of a gender parity in the organization. So that starts at across all levels. But again, I'll just put a caution here that when we go and do gender, we don't compromise on performance, and we don't compromise on the competencies or the skills or the talent levels that the individual has to bring in, because
Agreed.
then that doesn't become sustainable. It just then kind of makes a negative slope for the others who are more interested and kind of wanting to come forward, the other genders,
Of
females who
course.
want to
Yeah.
come forward, right? So with that mandate, we've kind of brought across that change in the organization. It's just taken us 13 years to come from a representation of 3% to around 20%, right? And
That's
across the
amazing.
industry,
Yeah.
across the industry, I think we are hovering around at the beginning level with around 10 to 15%. But when it goes to the senior level, etc., it starts kind of becoming more narrow, and 2 to 1% kind of starts sticking there. I think that's the journey which is begin across the manufacturing sector in India in the last 6 to 7 years. And it's going to take another 10 years to help bring this to at least a two-digit number. And the realization is coming. That's very important. The realization has come in, right? There is many institutes that are getting that are partnering with India or
Mm.
Indian industries, and I should say, to get that influences to say, okay, let's, manufacturing is a choice of career. It's not only about IT and IT enabled system. It's a choice of career. You have options, and then you go. So recently, I was talking to an ACMA panel and ACMA panel, and it was surprising to see that you have dealerships right now with the automotive space being run, and test
Yeah.
mechanics, everything being run with women. So I think
Yeah.
we are in the right direction.
The change is
uh,
happening.
Change is
Yeah.
happening, uh,
Yeah.
but it'll take at least a decade more. That would be my this thing, and that can be achieved only
Great.
with partnership, right?
Yeah. No, that's brilliant. Soumya, I have to say thank you so much. It's been so
Thank
interesting talking to you and listening to you. And as a token of appreciation, we are going to share with you a virtual certificate, and we're going to be planting a tree on your behalf at the Basi Wildlife Sanctuary in Rajasthan. And the certificate is for this tree plantation. So thank you very
thank
much for being part of Integrate 2021. Thank you everyone for listening in to Soumya. We're going to have a short break now, and after that we'll meet in Auditorium 1 for a fascinating panel discussion on understanding the world of predictive maintenance. In the meantime, do make time to visit the booths, and put it in your diary to visit them tomorrow so you have more time. We've got exhibitors from a diverse range of segments in the Industry 4.0 ecosystem, and we've got implementers, we've got sensor manufacturers, consultants, startup incubators, chambers of commerce from different countries, etc. Everything to get your journey started. All right. Well, thanks very much. And I'll see you on the other side of the break for understanding the world of predictive maintenance. Thank you.